Alright, so today we're going to make pumpkin pie. This is something that I've been doing for years with first grade classes, and usually I come into schools and we make it together in a big group, and this year's a little bit different, so we're going to make a video showing how to make pumpkin pie. And the first step we're going to do is our crust. So I've already made the crust. If you want to make your own crust, you can follow the recipe that we're going to attach, but you can also buy it in the store, and that's what I did today. So the first thing we do is take our crust and we're going to put it into our pie tin, just like the one we have here. You can either use one that you have at your house that you use over and over again, or buy reusable ones, and they both work just fine. So we're just going to lay this over the top, and it's going to slide around a bit, and that's okay. And then we're just going to kind of push it down so it gets nice and flat up against the edge of the pie tin. And we're going to do the best we can to make sure it doesn't tear and make sure it's nice and flat up against there. Alright. So once we do that, we're going to take either a spoon or a butter knife or whatever you might have at your house and go around the edges and pull the pie crust up to the very edge of the pan. Just like this, you can kind of see where it's all the way to the edge and you can't see the pie tin. And then we're going to take our utensil, like I have a spoon, and just do what's called crimping. And you're going to go every about half an inch and just push down and make little lines or designs or however you want to say it. Alright, now we have our pie crust done, and you can see that it's all nice and neat up against the edges and crimped. And what the crimping does is hold the pie crust to the pie tin, so when we bake it, it doesn't bubble up or separate. So the next step is going to be make our filling, and it's actually pretty simple. There's a couple ingredients, and we're going to start with our pumpkin. And this comes either canned or fresh. The fresh is a lot more difficult to make, so we're going to use the canned just for simplicity, and put all that into our bowl, making sure we get it all out of there because it's kind of sticky, so it's not going to just pop out of the can. You got to use a spatula to get it out. Alright, that's all our pumpkin. And then we're going to use 1 can of evaporated milk and add that into our pumpkin. And then we're going to use 2 eggs and crack those into our bowl, making sure we don't get any shells in there. We're also going to add in our 3/4 cup of sugar into our bowl with our pumpkin, evaporated milk, and eggs. And then some people like to use different spices. I've always found that the pumpkin spice mix is the most consistent. So we're going to do a 1.5 teaspoons of pumpkin spice mix, and that's something that you can find at the grocery store pretty readily available this time of year. And our last ingredient is going to be 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And when you're doing your salt, make sure you don't pour it over the bowl, because if you over pour it, we don't want all that salt into our pumpkin pie mix. Now that we get everything into our bowl, we're gonna just whisk it up until it's all nice and smooth. And I'll never forget, I was doing this one year at Drexel, and I had a student who is probably in 5th or 6th grade now, but he was insistent that this looked like nacho cheese dip, and he just could not get over that this is actually pumpkin pie. And it does kind of look like nacho cheese, but once it's cooked, it's really, really good. Now that we have our pumpkin pie mix all incorporated and mixed together, we're going to pour it into our pie crust. The important part of this step is to make sure that you don't get it on the edge of the crust, because if you do, those little bits of the pumpkin pie filling that get onto your crust will burn. So we want to make sure that we don't get it on the sides. Now we're going to put our pumpkin pie into the oven. You want to start her at 425 and go for about 10 minutes, and then reduce the temperature to 350 and go for another 30 minutes to 40. If your crust starts to burn on the edges, you can put foil and wrap the edge of the pumpkin pie so that the crust stops burning. All right, now that our pumpkin pie is finished, we want it just to sit for a couple hours, let it cool down. You can either eat it then or save it for later, but just make sure you put it in the refrigerator if you're not gonna eat it right away. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope everyone, all our Burke County School students, teachers, staff, families have a fantastic Thanksgiving, and I hope you guys really enjoy this pie recipe.